Okay, let's try to share it one more time. Share. Okay. So like I said, this week we're talking about managing your credit and what does the FICO score mean. Last week we actually weeks number 4 we had a State Farm presentation. We had some technical difficulties on week 4 where our State Farm representative Ira Murphy was having issues with her internet service in her area due to the rain. So if you guys are wanting she's more than happy to share her information with you guys. I do have some questions from earlier. I'm just wanted to pose the questions one more time. If you guys have any in reference to State Farm, please email me your questions so I can get those over to Ira. So some of the questions that came out is, what can State Farm do for me? They also have mutual funds. They also have their banking systems outside of your typical auto and renter's insurance. So if you have any questions in relations to mutual funds or a checking or saving account, make sure you guys send me those questions so I can get those over to Ira so she can explain her products to you guys. We also talked about saving for our future in chapter 5 of our book. And with that information, we had people that should have been taken care of, opening up a savings account. And I was able to give you guys different credit unions and banking information. The one I use right now is Capital One 360, which is your ING direct account. So that is the account that I've been using for my savings. And then on week 5, which was last week, that was our off week. That was Super Tuesday. Here in Georgia, we were voting. And so we were actually off last week, going to the polls to vote for our candidates. So getting ready for our presidency. And then you should have been reading chapter 6, 7 already. And in chapter 6, it talked about the gift of giving. And then also talked about our 10-10-80 rule of giving. And we'll go over that a little bit more in detail. Once again, this is our weekly scriptures coming from Romans 13, chapter 7 to the 8th verse. Is talking about rendering what is paying what is owed to no man. So this will be coming from our scripture. So since we are in our debt freedom plan, what we want to do is make sure that once we pulled our credit report and we're going through all the information, that we make sure that we are paying back each and every one of our creditors and any of our family members, because the Bible is telling us that we do not want to be slaves to nobody. So we want to make sure that we work on this here concept and on this here principle. So this is what we'll be working on for this here week. So before we get into that, in our book, before we get into how our FICO score is determined, what is the FICO score, we were in our book and we talked, in the book, it talked about a couple of things. The first thing we talked about was the 10-10-80 rule. And let me offer some suggestions to that. The 10-10-80 rule is talking about a simple formula that is best how we manage our money. Let me go back. Hold on, presence. So with the 10-10-80 rule, what we want to do is be able to save 10% of our income, and that's the savings that we're going to be putting towards our savings account. And then we're going to also have 10% of that money is what we're going to use towards giving, which is our tithes. And like I said, we talked about this here before, is 10% we give to God. Malachi 3:10 talks about where do we rob God, and that is in our tithes and in our offerings. So we want to make sure that we are giving to our church. If you do not belong to a church, want to make sure that you guys go ahead and visit a church and begin tithing and actually become a member of that church. If you are not a member of that church, take that 10% of your income and set it aside in a savings account. So whenever you do join a church, you'll have that go towards your giving. And then the other 80% is actually what we want to live off of. That's 80% of your net income. And Mary Hunt does a good job of this here on page 87 of our book. And she talks about that 80%, how we're supposed to live, and applying that to how we want to manage our money. So that's where the 10-10-80 rule is coming from. Also, she talks about 5 ways of giving. She talks about systematically is one of the rules, thoughtfully, enthusiastically, voluntarily, and a cheerful giver. And we know that our principle of giving is like once we sow into a person, we reap that same gift into our lives. So if we sow money, we reap money. We sow love, we reap love. If we sow time, you reap time. So these are the principles that we want to use and apply to our life on this here week. So that's going to be some of your homework assignment that you're going to be given to. And then she also went and talked about in Genesis 12, Genesis the 12th chapter and the 2nd to 3rd verse, the power of giving. But before we get into that, does anyone have any questions at this time? Anyone? Anyone? Hold on. I got some questions coming in. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions at this time, I'm going to keep going. And we're going to go into our FICO score. And what does our FICO score actually mean? So give me 1 second. It's hard to maneuver between these different screens, you guys. It's not an easy process. I'm just letting you guys know that. So let me get back to my other screen. Here I am, guys. Any questions at this here time? Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions, I'll get back to our PowerPoint. Okay. How is your FICO scores determined? So as you look at the breakdown of the chart in the pie, you can see that 30% is what you owe. So that could be any past due utility bills, that could be your car payments, that could be anything. That is your student loans. 30% of your FICO score is coming from the amounts and the accounts you owe. 10% is coming from any of your new credit. That's like when you go into Walmart or Target or any of the department stores, they'll give you that catch phrase saying, hi, you get an extra 10% off if you open a Macy's card, or you get another 15% off if you open a Belts card. So that's where that 10% new credit is coming from. So whenever you open up one of those department store cards, 10% of that is going to be looking at that. 50% of that will be looking at your credit history, the length of time that you have had credit and it has established credit. That means that most of our, well, depending on how you was raised, if you were raised in a good home where you don't have any cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, mamas using your credit number, your social security number. Normally they start looking at your credit once you as a parent to your children start opening up a savings account, and then once they get into high school, they get their first little summer job. That's when they start counting your credit history. So as soon as you become 15, 16 years old, you start working and they start watching you have a checking account or a checking savings account. That's when that credit history begins. So you want to be careful if you have kids, or if you was a child that actually had those issues. Like myself, I had some cousins, some brothers, some sisters that actually used my credit, where at the age of 18, I had to file bankruptcy in order to, not have to pay debt that was other people's. It was crazy because the judge had told my mother if he had, she should have been able to stop that thing. Family members using, my social security number, because by the time I was 18 with my first real job, it was automatically getting taken away from creditors that I had no idea that I even had credit in, like cars and apartments and things of that nature. So be careful about that, and please watch your kids' credit social security number and credit report also, because they too can become victim of identity theft. And then you also have 10% of credit mix. And this is also in the book, how Mary breaks this here down too. But the 10% of the credit mix is actually a mixture of everything that is being reported on. This is the mixture of the accounts that you have, such as revolving lines of credit, installment loans, mortgages, and vehicle loans. So that's your mix. Then you have your 35% of history, payment history, and that's showing you how that's the points that shows you your credit accounts, even if you consistently maintain a zero balance. And she also points out the longer you have a credit line, the better it is, and your oldest credit card becomes your most valuable because of its longevity. Meaning that, let's say you have a Macy card and you haven't used it at all, but it's zero balance, that's still a good thing. What you want to do is prevent from closing out credit cards that you don't use, because a lot of times if you close it out, that could be worse than anything, because now your debt income ratio changes. So you want to be careful about that. So I'm just going to pop back over to see if you guys have any questions. And if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so I still do not see any questions coming through. All right, going back into my presentation. All right, what is considered a bad score and what is considered a good score, as you may want to know? Haha. So let me switch my slide back over for you guys so you guys can see everything. This sharing screen back and forth is killing me. So here you go. Here's your numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Anything that is, it used to be better than this here. 720 used to be your excellent score, but of course we had inflation. We also had housing market crash. We had a lot of things that came into play that had us reevaluate, or the government and the banks reevaluate how they look at credit. So now, as you see, what is considered a bad credit score? So before, people be like, oh, I'm at a 450, I'm almost to a 500. And not anymore, because as you can see, 589 to 619 is considered bad now, So how do we, and we'll talk about how to get your scores up higher. So we will get those to you guys. To get the information on how to contact the credit bureau and stuff. But as you look at this here, 800 to 850 is considered a flawless credit score. 760 to 799 is considered great. And then your average right now is averaging around 680 and 719. So if you fall anywhere between there, you are actually doing pretty well. And some may ask, it's like, oh my goodness, I don't have a job. I'm still a student. I'm struggling. Kim, how do I get these here credit scores up? And we'll talk about that in a few, but I just wanted to show you what is the national average of your FICO score today, where it used to be better a long time ago. But how are you affected by your credit score? Let's talk about that. Do you know that with your credit score, you are being evaluated in multiple areas in your life? So what affects your credit score? Pretty much everything affects your credit score. Your auto loans affect your credit score. When you apply for car insurance, they run your credit, and based off your credit score, they determine how much your premiums are going to be. They also determine how much your interest is going to be on your mortgages. Your credit cards, they'll give you a credit card, but how would you feel if you applied for a Macy's card and the person in front of you just got the same exact Macy's card with the same privileges as you, but they're paying 2% and you're paying 20%? That's like a slap in your face. And then you're going to be paying 3 times more than that other person. So your credit cards are affected by your score. Your utility companies, they're also are being determined by your score. So whenever you want to get Comcast, Time Warner, Georgia Power, SCANA, Rochester Gas and Electric, your utility companies are actually running your credit report and determining how much you're going to pay for your utility company. A lot of times people be like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Or they even thinking, oh, I don't owe that company, so I don't care if they get my credit, my social security number, because I never had anything from that. But the problem with that is that they are determining how much they're going to charge you for this here. They do not tell you that, but it is true. So I just wanted you guys to also know that. And then depending on your occupation, your employment also can be affected by your FICO score, your social security number. I know myself is now in more of a white collar position, in where we have to use company credit cards, company vehicles, company computers, things of that nature. And my social security number determines how much leadership, financial management power I may have within my hospital or my company. So that's why it was always pertinent to me that I always manage my credit score and make sure it's good, and always making sure that everything is at least decent. So this is how you could be affected by your scores. Now let me give you a quick breakdown and show you how having good score or good credit score helps you in the long run. So as we determined before, with our 720 to 850 great flawless credit score, you can see our annual percentage rate. This is like for an example of an auto loan that you'll only pay 4.261%. But then when you get down to anything under 500, 499 below, you could have an interest rate as high as 20%, meaning that you could get money, you'll be paying an extra $380 to $400 extra a month just towards your auto loan. And if you take that and multiply it by the length of your term, you can see how much more money that you'll be paying for this here car. And a lot of people don't like to have to pay more money. So that's an extra $14,000 on your auto loan that you'll be paying if you were below the 499 credit score. Big shocker, huh? So let's go ahead. Does anyone have any questions at this time? All right. No questions? Okay, I'm gonna pose a question to you guys. During these last few weeks, I want to know how many of you guys are actually saving or begun saving. Hold on. Because I know that myself personally, I am so proud of myself with everything that is going on with my savings that I can't do anything but ask God and just thank God for all that He's done for me, with me, and everything, because it's just been so awesome with all the blessings that He's been giving me. I know that Pastor Gregory has just got done teaching a series on the blessings of answered prayers. And I have a testimony on tonight. I actually listened to his last sermon this past Sunday. I watched it via Periscope, and it was so awesome that I have already listened to it like 4 times already. And what he talked about was the will. We have the will of God, our will, and then the will of the enemy. And when I listened to that, I had to remind myself that, wow, there's 3 types of will, and where do I fall into those wills? So last year, I was a victim of identity theft, and I had everything taken away from me. I struggled I went to New York on a project, and during that time, I went with money. I went with a plan. I had a 2-year plan in place. I had my savings in place, paying for my daughter's tuition. And while the 3rd month I was in town, I got hit with somebody stealing my identity. It was somebody in Texas, and they pretty much wiped me out clean. The bank called me to explain to me that I just got hit over $10,000 in funds. I wasn't worried about it because I was covered by the bank, so I thought. And during that time, I couldn't focus because I had my daughter in college, and I had to be able to pay. I just sent her $300 just for personal needs, but I still needed to pay an additional $2,000 towards her college tuition, plus the movers and everything that I had to pay for my new location. So of course I called Pastor Gregory and told him what was going on. He prayed with me, and we all knew that everything was going to be fine. So I thought. Well, to make a long story short, as I worked, my direct deposit was still going into the bank, but the bank kept on taking my money. Bills started getting further behind, and it was to the point where I didn't know what to do. Of course, I prayed, called Pastor Gregory up again, and I said, just to pose the question, like, Pastor Gregory, what would you do? It's like, I'm paying my bills. I'm not broke yet, but I feel the pressure so bad. I don't know what to do. Of course, he was like, I think you should leave. Come on back down to Georgia, do what you have to do, and just come on back. I didn't have the unction to actually move just yet. So I continued to pray, continued to work, continued to do everything. And that's got me doing more fasting, more praying. Of course, I gave more, did more, cried more, and all of a sudden didn't know what to do. As soon as I heard from God and God told me to go ahead and move back to Georgia, everything started to open up. Windows of blessings started pouring in. I just came back to Georgia, where God blessed me with a new job where I'm making almost $20,000 more than what I was making up north. I ended up with $17,000 in bonuses, which also gave me more than what the enemy stole from me. Since I started this here debt-free living, while I'm paying off debt, going through everything, I had to double up on payments, of course, because car payments were getting behind. Everything was getting, well, far behind, almost was facing 2 repossessions. So I'm here to tell you that all cars, both my daughter's car and my car, is no longer in repossession status. The bills that were on my credit report, nearly half of them are already paid for. And then also, Chase just called me on yesterday, guys, and Chase was like, well, when are you going to pay us back the money? And I told him, well, I'm not. You see, because that money that you say I owe, I don't owe, because you put me in a financial strain where you actually caused me to almost lose my vehicles. You almost caused me to be evicted. You almost caused me to do a lot of things. And all them bills that you said you paid, you never paid. So Chase was like, really? And I was like, yeah, so I'm not paying you because you put me in a financial burden, because you were supposed to protect me from the identity theft that you never protect me from. And so you actually didn't help me. You hindered me. So she said, well, I need you to call the 1-800 number. Let's put in a dispute and let's see what happened to all this money. So I put in a dispute, and I am happy to say that Chase Bank called me on today, and it's like, we apologize for all that you have gone through. You are correct. None of the companies have actually got paid, and that money, which was $1,400, that they didn't want to give me back, and there was $5,000 that was still dangling. So I'm happy to say that that $1,400 where they were just about to put on my credit report is no longer owed. So that is gone. And then the $5,000 or the $10,000 that was dangling and missing, as they say, has now been credited back to my old account. And they asked me, well, how do you want to come get it? Do you want it in a check, or do you want to come open up another account? So, tomorrow I will be at Chase Bank to go pick up my $5,000. So that's what I'm just saying. During this whole fasting, the debt-free living group, and applying the principles and just staying on top of and just being obedient, you can see that God is doing supernatural miracles, not only in my life, but other people's lives. I also have a friend, I don't see her on tonight, but I'm waiting for her to share her testimony about how much money she was going to be facing with owing the IRS, and how God turned around and blessed her awesome. So whenever she gets up her nerves, and hopefully we could get her on and she'll be able to speak to that. So I just wanted to give you guys my testimony on tonight. So if you guys don't have any questions, I want you guys to continue to read in your book, and I'm going to show you what your homework is on for next week. But I want you guys to continue to send in your prayer requests also, because I know that I've been getting emails and text messages on the different prayers that you guys are still wanting. And once again, Minister Vinny is still available for those that wants that is in need of prayer. We also have our clinical psychologist, if anybody is feeling down and out, that she is also available for each and every one of you guys. I'm going to also attach to you guys, I'm not going to share it online, but hold on, let me see. Maybe I will share it online. The letters that you guys can use for how to dispute. Hold on one second. How to dispute your things on your credit report, because I want you guys to be able to do that too. Because I know a lot of you guys is like, well, Kim, how do I get these here scores to come up? And that's why I want to make sure you guys are reading. Hold on one second. I'm trying to bring this here page up for you guys. It's okay. Hold on, it's coming up. It's coming up. Give me 1 second. Do anybody have any questions at this here time pertaining to your score and how to dispute some of these here? Because I've also added, I have some of these here letters too. One of the ones that you most definitely is the charge-off one, the charge-off letters. So if you have any charge-offs on your credit report, the best thing to do is for you guys to first pay it off. And a lot of times there's a misconception about the 7-year rules because it's in Ecclesiastics, and it talks about the natural law and how anything after 7 years fall off your credit report, which is true. However, as we also read, we don't want to owe any man anything. So if we pay off our debt and be faithful to paying off our debt, you will start seeing that God will meet us halfway. So you want to be able to pay off that debt. Hold on, let me share my screen with you guys again. Share screen. Hold on. Guys, you have no idea how hard this is. Simple letter. It's not it. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. My dog wants to play with me. So what you want to do, I'm trying to pull this up for you guys, and it's not pulling up for me. What you want to do is go send a message to Equifax and let them know that you have some charge-offs that you want to dispute. And they will, and you want to make sure you put the actual account number associated with this here. And then when you bring up so you guys should actually have already gotten your credit report, your credit scores, and to know what your credit score is and to know what your credit report looks like. So when you get that, you want to make sure that you are adding it to your account number to that information. And then when you add it to them, they will actually review it. And you want to make sure that they see that it is actually a charge off and that it was paid in full and that it was, and that you wanted to remove. Because once you get those removed from your credit report, that's how you could jump your score up an extra 10, 15 points. So you want to most definitely get that done. I think I got it up here for you guys to see now. Let me share my screen. Present to everyone. So this here is just an example of it. It's because this is from your credit report. You're just saying that this is one that's going to Equifax. It's just telling them that below are the results of your report, and you want to be able to have this or information removed. And they will actually remove this or from your credit report, and they'll be able to. And once you give them that time frame of 30 days, it will come off and you'll be like so happy to see how quick your points will jump up after you saw once these start coming off. So if you have the accounts, and the way you want to work your credit report really is, it's always easier to pay off the little bills first. So if you pay those off first, then you can see a big difference. So if you have some credit, like some cable bills, utility companies, some old credit cards, um, some credit cards, you want to pay those off first, because if you could get 5 of the little ones down, then you can start hitting off the bigger ones. Also, another suggestion, which you guys will be reading shortly, which is in your next chapters, is actually how to pay off student loans. And you want to make sure that you work on doing your student loans, or consolidating your student loans. So like myself, I've already talked to the government to talk to them about my credits, about consolidating some of my student loans. And they are so good at advising you. Like, I'm still in school. I don't graduate until December. But with that being said, they were saying how you can consolidate. I myself can consolidate all my student loans right now, the old ones, but the 2 that I'm still using that are live and present, I can still just either pay on those, which will bring my interest down, even if I'm paying $50 a week or $100 a month, just pay something to keep my interest down. And then once I do that, when I finish in December, they also advise to consolidate those along with the ones that I'm about to consolidate. So that way I have one student loan debt, and then I can just pay that at one given time. But I have another goal that I'm trusting God to do, but I'm just giving you guys an example of letting you guys know how they are very helpful in helping you to understand how to be able to pay those off, pay them quicker, and how it can help you with your score if you're looking for your score to be raised better. Because it was scary for me to see that I had like 12 accounts and they were all student loans, and some of them was as low as $1,000. Excuse me, but it still was on my credit report, and I didn't like that. So just wanted you guys to know that they're there for you, and we'll be talking about that in chapter 10. All right, is there any questions? Back to you guys. I am just waiting. All right. So if there is no questions, let's talk about your homework. Because you know I like giving homework. So your homework for next week, you guys have some reading to do. Hold on, let me find it. You guys always gonna have homework. Here we go. Share my screen. Let me share it with everyone. Present to everyone. So here's your homework. Since we had technical issues on week 4, no homework on week 5, even though you should have had homework. So what I have decided to do, since I went over a lot of this information about the 10-10-80 rule, talked about the 5 ways of giving, we talked about your FICO score. So this is what your homework is going to consist of this week. I want you to now catch up on your reading, and you're going to read chapter 7, chapter 8, and chapter 9. Chapter 7 is going to talk about anticipating irregular expenses. Chapter 8 is going to tell you how and where you want to have your money go. And chapter 9 is what we just talked about as managing your credit. So what you're going to do, you're going to read those 3 chapters. Then if you haven't already pulled your credit report and gotten your score, I want you to go ahead and pull your credit report, get your score, see where you fall at in that range. If you need your free credit report, there's the 800 number. And then like myself, I just paid the $30 to get all 3 reports along with my score. So I just paid that and got everything. I want you also to review your credit report. This is where we're going to start now working on raising our score. You want to review your personal information page. Check the spelling of your name, any of the assumed names, and dispute those names and addresses and social security numbers that are not yours. You may get a report where it shows your last 4 numbers or your social security number, which is awesome. So you know that that is your number. However, for some reason, like my maiden name is Jones, my married name is Conte. I chose Conte for a reason because there's too many Kimberly Jones out there. So with me being a maiden name of Jones, what happens is that I constantly get Kimberly Joneses that are not mine. So I always have to compare my home address, the time where I lived in that state, along with my name, my maiden name. Anything that is not mine, I dispute. I never lived in New York City, Long Island, or Suffolk County, so I got those off of me. I never lived in California, so I had that removed off of me. You, like we saw on the pie, those inquiries will kill you. It makes it look like there's too many people trying to figure out who you are, what you're doing. Get those off of you. On your inquiry page, make sure that your disputes and that you dispute any and all inquiries that you did not approve. What you may see is if you went for, if let's say Steve Raymond or Jim Ellis, an auto dealer, and you try to get a loan, they will put it through multiple banks. That is considered one hit, but you will see multiple banks looking at your stuff. So you can, and there's another letter, and we'll talk about those letters next week, how to write those letters and say, I only applied for auto loan. Let's get it down to this one bank, and they will put it down to the top 3 if it was 5, 6, 7, 8. Because you know, a lot of times when your score is low, they put it through multiple banks. You end up like 10 banks on your report. So you can dispute those also. Any public records, check those. Check for any judgments, evictions, bankruptcies. And remember, you do have that 7-year rule. They are trying to say that they can do it up to 10 years. Do not argue with them talking about, I got 7 years. The Bible said I got 7 years. No, do not argue with them. You just kindly ask. First pray. Then you ask God for wisdom, and then you speak and let the Holy Spirit lead you into how you want to talk to the people on the phone. Because some people, they don't like their jobs and they will probably give you a hard time. They do have that right, but you want to be as nice as you can and just make sure that they do remove it. But yes, they do have 7 years, but they have also increased them years to 10 years. So I did learn that by working on my credit report. Also, refrain from opening any new accounts at this time, because as we saw, 10% on that pie, they're looking at the new account. So you want to refrain yourself from doing any new accounts. We will later talk about how to open up a new account to increase your score, but I don't want you guys to do that at this here time because we want to get out the debt we're in right now. And so I want you to refrain from opening any new accounts. Also, the worst thing that you could do to your score is start closing out current accounts. So what you want to do is pay them off, get them down to 0, but do not close the account. Because once you pay off or pay down your debt and get it down to 0, now you can see your debt ratio change for you. So your income goes up, your debt goes down. And so it gives you more leveraging power when you don't close the account, but then you still have a high income ratio to your debt. Also, reduce your utilization of rate below 30% if possible. So what you want to do with this here information is, as you saw where we talked about the 1080 rule, that's what we want to do. So we want to be able to, let's go back up to this here chart so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Alrighty. So from this here chart, where we have 30% account owes, 35% payment history, what we want to do is bring this here number down. This here number right here, that 30% owed, and this and bring that down as much as possible. And then also your credit mix, we want to bring that down. Your length of history and your payment history, well, your length of history and your new accounts, if you don't open any new credit cards, you're good. Your length of history, you have no control over, except that you keep any zero balance open. And your credit mix and your account owed, you want to bring those two numbers down, meaning that you want to take care of what is owed and bring those down to zero. What are in charge of, write those letters and get those removed off your credit report. So that's what I mean by that utilization. So you could, like I said, bring that income ratio up. Is there any questions in reference to your homework, guys? Okay. If there is no questions in reference to tonight's broadcast, I just want you guys to know that I love each and every one of you. I want you guys to continue to stay blessed. And once again, if you have any questions, continue to email me or text me. I also want you guys to continue to watch our broadcast via Periscope on Sundays at 9 o'clock if you're in the Atlanta area. I also want you guys to come out and visit. Like I said, we're 2 churches and 2 locations. At 9 a.m., we are at the Marietta campus, which is the Marietta Performing Arts Center on Whitlock Avenue. Well, not on Whitlock, but at Marietta High School. And then on Sunday at 11 o'clock, we are at our Atlanta location, which is on Lawson Street. So I just want you guys to stay blessed. I love each and every one of you guys. And like I said, if you're in any prayers, prayer requests, also email me that information. Love y'all. Stay blessed. Have a good night.